All right, Stephen Rear, appreciate your time today.
Yeah, not a problem, man.
Okay, let's kick it off. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and just who you are?
Uh, yeah. All right. I grew up in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. So, my mom and my father split up before I was born. Mom got a stepdad, moved to Stratford right around my sophomore year. Um, Kind of just going fast here. Dropped out of high school my sophomore year. Just had a lot of trouble with, I guess, keeping motivated at school would be the best way of putting it, I guess. So got my GED, met a cute girl. She got pregnant. I didn't know what to do. So first thing I thought of that could build a life for a family and make your kid proud would be join the military. So that's kind of what I gravitated to after high school. I was kind of a punk kid all throughout high school, skateboarding, getting into trouble for no reason, just fighting the power that I didn't even know existed. I don't know, some kind of cheesy kid, like we all were. Um, and then met a pretty girl, like I said. She got pregnant. Went to basic in was it November of 2010? No, 9. November of 2009. Um, at Fort Leonard Wood, obviously, because I went in for engineer. Oh yeah, why I became an engineer. um, I guess the main reason I kind of went engineer was out of like almost necessity. Like my options were kind of limited on what the army needed at that point. Um, I had a high ASVAB score, but there wasn't really anything open at that time. And I didn't really want to, like I told my girlfriend, now wife at the time, um, I didn't want to join and like sit behind a desk. It seemed kind of odd to me to like join the military and be like, yeah, I'll just, push paper. Like, what? No, that's not why, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Everybody joins for their own purpose. In my head, it didn't make sense. And the only other option I had was tanker. And the sheer thought of sitting in a tin can with, 13 other men that close was just kind of out of the question. Little did I know later on, especially you boys that run those Huskies like Sherman. But yeah, I chose engineer kind of out of that and the fact that my wife, my girlfriend at the time, her brother was an engineer. So I kind of knew kind of what it was. Like the recruiter tried to church it up, but I could just call him up and be like, yo, what are they actually like legit doing? And he told me. So I was like, I kind of like, I mean, naively knew what I was getting into, I guess is the best way of putting it. Um, I don't think anybody really knew what we were getting into, obviously. Um, yeah, went through basic Fort Leonard Wood. That was like November of '09 to it was March of 10, I believe. So got through basic. I was alpha 31st in basic. I mean, basic was pretty much the same as it was for everybody. I've got like one guy that I still talk to that I went to basic with, and it just so happened that like the only reason we started talking was because I found out I was going to get stationed at JBLM, and he was a reservist in Washington. So like we kind of bonded off of that, you know what I mean? Um, so Weeks, shout out to my boy Weeks. But yeah, it basic was the same as it was for everybody. Like I said, I found out I was going to JBLM, Fort Lewis McCord, whatever you want to call it. Fort Lewis is what we always called it. But yeah, I didn't know anything about Washington. Obviously, I'd never been really anywhere out of my state. I had gone to California once when I was younger, but like It's kind of like a whole new experience. I had a new wife at the time because I got married right before I went into basic. So new wife, new baby. He was my son Brennan. He was, I want to say, 13 months at the time. So I'm 23 at this time with a 13-month-old and a wife that I've known for 2 months um, before she got pregnant. So we're moving, however far that is, halfway across the country. So that was like culture shock, obviously. Um, I just remember like flying out there. The flight out there wasn't bad. We were all like panicky because we thought like my son was gonna have a real issue with flying, but I mean he took that pretty well. But the main thing is we landed. My wife and I had never been anywhere where there were trees as tall as they were in Washington. Like I don't know if you've ever been in the Midwest, but we don't have like coniferous, whatever those trees are called, that are like super freaking tall. We just have regular trees that are shorter, like oaks and you know what I'm saying? So like I remember when my wife and I got out there, we were just amazed, like, oh my God, I didn't know that trees got this tall. I didn't know they had trees that tall. And like we moved in on like the on-post housing shortly after getting there. And that was crazy because there was trees all over the place. So that's my little tangent about the weird thing that I thought when I first got to Washington. Yeah, when we first got to Washington, I was staying in the hotel on post. I can't remember what that thing was called, but there was a little hotel that I was staying at because I got moved into second platoon. I got put in with, I came in with Villarreal, Adam Villarreal, and I can't remember the other soldier that I came in with. He went into first, but it was Ramon, I think his last name was. He was like from Jamaica or something.
Yeah. Ramon.
Is that what his name
Yeah.
was?
Yep.
Holy cow, I cannot believe I remember that. But like get to the 22nd with those two other guys. It's me, Adam, and Ramon. And we get up to 14th to the front desk. It's like my very first day there after getting all my stuff done. It's like the very first time I get to like the actual 22nd. Um, and I think it's Sergeant Fuller is in there at the time. Um, and I can't remember who the sergeant or master sergeant that was in there all the time was. Um, Shorter guy, dark hair. If you don't remember, I cannot remember his name. I can remember his face like it's yesterday, but I cannot remember his name. Um, but they're in there and they're questioning us, and Sergeant Fuller is standing there and he goes to ask Ramon a question. And Ramon does not go into parade dress like at all in any way, just starts to talk to him. And Sergeant Fuller like locks Ramon down like right there. And I remember standing there with V and like being like, oh shit, okay. So they do take like they're not
Mhm.
serious about it, but they take it seriously. Like, you gotta show your respect around here, especially on your first day, obviously. So, they tell me where I'm going. I get over to second platoon, which I think the first person I talked to was Sergeant Pelayo.
Okay.
And I think Sergeant Blevins was there as well, sitting in one of those folding chairs kicked off beside Pelayo, talking about whatever him and Mac and, Sergeant Kuriyama were all doing that day. I don't know if you ever talked or hung out with those guys, but I mean,
Oh
they were
yeah.
all characters in their own sense, just like every other NCO, I'm sure it was in every other platoon. Um, but yeah, Sergeant P, gave me the questions, where are you staying? What are you doing with this family? You're a dumb kid. I'm like, he
Okay.
thinks he thinks I'm like 19 at the time or 18 at the time, like all the other guys. I'm actually a little bit older. I'm only 23, but I've already had a job for a while. Like I've lived in the real world. You know what I mean? Like, no offense to the guys that came straight out of high school, like respect, but they had a different feel
Hmm.
for life at that point. You know what I mean? I just had a little more maturity in life, not like I was an old man or anything like that, but just difference in age. And so he's asking me all these questions. I'm like, yeah, I'm already married. I got a wife. Like I've got housing, trying to get together, and I'm staying at the hotel on post. He tells me I'm nuts, obviously, and then like moves me out to some eco line hotel. I think it was out in I was out towards Olympia, but I don't think it was in Olympia. I can't remember all the cities around there. It's been
Sure.
12 years. Uh, but yeah, we get a hotel out there. I finally get on post housing, which was nice. Got the family all posted into that. Um, it's really hard to really put together everything that went on in the beginning. I can't remember everything in like a timeline sense. I remember certain things. Like I can remember the first time I got there. I remember standing in formation that day out front, and Sergeant P, after all the other companies are gone or all the other platoons are gone, we're still out there. And Sergeant P is like drilling us with questions about every, because I'm the new guy, so he's got to show off that, I don't know my stuff or something like that. So, he's drilling me. So far I'm getting everything right. He's asking other people, and then if they get it wrong, he starts asking me. And then if I get it right, he starts smoking them. I'm like, hold up. Like, that's not cool. So I don't know. I kept answering him right. I don't know if that's the right answer too or the wrong answer. So, like, when I first got there, people I felt, didn't really like me right off the bat. Because I don't know. I was kind of gung ho. I was a young kid that, had a new family. And this was like my plan to be, 20 years. My plan was, sapper, you know, all that shit. Just like another story later on, I remember like the first PT test I did at the platoon, which was only like 2 weeks after being there, because I don't know, we were getting ready for deployment or ramping up for it. And like I remember the first PT test, like running well on that, getting smoked because I outran the XO. Sergeant P told me I'm not supposed to outrun the XO or something. I don't know. Everything before deployment for me is like really just small blur memories. It's just there was good parts and there were bad parts, but most of my memories from that, like no offense to the 22nd, are my wife and my kids.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, I have little tidbits of everything, but I can't like put together like a week 3 of month 2 here. I
Sure.
know what I so I mean, I I can tell you just about anything you want to know about the guys. I can tell you the guys that I got along with pretty well. I got along pretty well more and guys like that I hung out with. I mean, I'm not really sure what I don't really know how to tell the story of before deployment, because the reason I say that is because I wasn't really part of the unit. Does that make sense? Like
It
the guys that
does.
had been there when I got there. The youngest guys on the unit had already been there for a half a year or more.
Mm.
And by the time we deployed, I had only been in the unit for like, I think it was 40 something days. So like I came and then we went. So I mean, everything before deployment that I remember is late nights, training all the freaking time, being out in the field all the time. I remember doing that. What was that training building that we did? It was like a fake Afghanistan city.
Yeah, I don't remember what that's. I remember the training. I don't remember what it's called. I do have a question for you though that comes up from all this. So you get to the unit, you've only been there 40 days, you deployed, and yet here you are as a 23-year-old dad with this 13-month-old kid, basically brand new wife. You go all the way across the country to Washington. What was the adjustment of that like? And then how do you prepare your family for in 40 days, I'm going to be gone for a year?
What I think naivety falls into it again. I mean, I think with if I were me now, I don't think that I would do the things that I did. I mean, we didn't really prepare as a family. I mean, we knew it was coming, but we didn't really know what it was. I mean, I had never deployed. I had never been away from something like that. My wife, I mean, knew from the sense of a sister, but not from a sense of, a loved one staying back. That's like an intimate loved one, a wife, a mother, a father, something like that. Um, so it was a huge adjustment. Um, my wife kind of went off on her own and actually broke her foot after we deployed.
Oh no.
Um, so like it was right whenever we got into um what is that whole was it Kazakhstan or whatever, that holding area before we actually flew into Afghanistan. Can't remember the country.
Kyrgyzstan. It was Kyrgyzstan.
There we go. So yeah, when we first landed there, Sergeant Paleo pulled me over and told me my wife broke her foot. So like she didn't even really have a chance to process that I had deployed, and I didn't really have a chance to really process the deployment either before I really got hurt. I mean, I don't, people don't really understand how fast everything happened for me. I mean, if you take from November of 2009 until August of 2011, I joined the military, trained, deployed. My wife broke her foot. I got blown up. I got sent home. I rehabbed for months after multiple surgeries. I mean, it's it's so hard to compartmentalize that and put it into a timeline, if that makes sense.
Of
Do
course
you
it
get,
does. Yeah.
do you get what I'm saying? Like there's so much compacted into such a small amount of time. It's hard for me to like remember it all. Like everything is just bursts. Like I can tell you that it was an immense adjustment while over there. I mean, but again, I was only there for, I mean, what was it, the second day that we took over after the National Guard unit left? That's when I got hit. Like it wasn't, and I think that that's, people forget that maybe, I don't know. And I think a lot of people kind of hold that me as this like central focus into something that I think in a lot of ways is unwarranted because it's just, I'm just kind of the first guy. Does that make sense? It's not that it's me specifically. I'm just
I
the
see what you're saying.
I'm the first gut punch.
Hmm.
That's what I am. And that's what people, I think I'm the first realistic, like, oh shit. Cause like the first time that people took contact was first platoon, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure it was Sergeant Fuller's boys that took first contact while we were in Afghanistan, because that was when you guys were out with the National Guards guys and they took contact and you guys were there and we were like trying to like, we wanted the juicy details because like you guys were the first, what I'm saying? Like everybody was taking it as like this, oh yeah, we're here to kick ass. Like we're just gonna mow through this. And I was just that, oh shit. Do you get what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, and that's logical, and yet I have been very detailed in documenting as much as I can uncover, and I don't think anybody's thought of you that way. I think people knew you at a more personal level than what you're probably thinking. It was very fast and rapid for you, but a lot of people thought very fondly of you and had attachment to you. So I would I think there's some truth in what you're saying. Certainly that's a part of it. You were the first, right? But also there was everybody was very close. And I don't remember anybody being marginalized except for the people who came over mid deployment with an attitude. There was one person who got corrected real quick and then it was good, but that wasn't, I don't think that was the case for you. I would disagree with that. I think people like when I think of you. So when you're in a platoon together, you get a lot more time together, right? So everybody's naturally more bonded with the people in their squad and their team than they
Right.
are with another
Obviously.
platoon.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, like I'm closer with like Herrera and
right.
those guys, and I'm sure you're closer with the guys in first, and just,
Sure.
I mean, that's just how it goes. Those are your boys. Those are your brothers. That's who you stand shoulder to shoulder with.
Right. But I could say with complete transparency and honesty, when I think of you, I think nothing of good things. Like you had a certain personality to you that was very likable and people. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing not to like and people could rely on you. I know that much. And I know Blevins cared a lot about you too.
Oh, hold up on that. Bleezy still hits me different, man.
I bet he does.
Bleezy and I were like really close. Um, so that was a complete shock. But yeah, Bleezy and I were really close. That's a tough one to breach. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I think this is important in the sense that this is an individual we all cared about, and you want to be human if you didn't feel something about that. He deserves that too.
Bleezy
Everybody. Yeah.
Bleezy's more than just a person to me though. Like, do you want to hop into the accident right now and go into the whole Bleezy thing, or do you want to
It's
wait a
your
second?
time, man. This is your story. I want to
Oh,
cover it, but you do it when you're ready.
well, I'll put it this way. When I found out that Bleezy was supposed to be up, I think it was for a Bronze Star with Valor, and he didn't get it, it pissed me off. Because if it wasn't for Bleezy, there's a good chance I would have bled out in that fucking truck. And it's no shot at Cosman, but Cosman got hit and he tried to put a tourniquet on me and he got it on and he just fell on the ground and he couldn't do shit. And I couldn't reach across to do anything about it. So I would have just, like, if it wasn't for Bleezy hopping in the back of that truck, I wouldn't probably be here. So that one just hits a little different for
Sure.
me.
Of
So
course it did.
that kind of pissed me off a little bit. Um, but I don't want to hit the accident just yet. Um, the main things that I can tell you, like if you really want me to start, the shit that matters to me is like the guys I got close to, like the whites. Um, my whole story revolves around them. It's not all of the 22nd guys because I wasn't there to get
Sure.
to know all of them. Like I got to know second pretty decently, and I got to know a few guys in some other platoons that were funny as hell, like Snyder. Do you remember Snyder?
But yeah, I do.
Last name was Snyder. That dude would have me rolling. Like I knew some guys like that, but like most of the guys were like, white. Parker. I spent most of my time with Parker. I met Parker like pretty quick when I got to the unit, because he was a medic that was new and he got moved to the 22nd as well and got put in the medic unit. So I kind of bonded with Parker. Um, he's funny. I thought he was hilarious. I like to joke around. I try to be a lighthearted guy as much as I can. I have a bad temper. I lose my shit quick, but like I work hard, you know. When I think it's why me and Bleezy got along well is like because he was my team leader. Fucking when it was time to mess around, I could mess around, but when it was time to lock it down and be professional and be a fucking soldier, I I did that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't. There was no disrespect there. I never called him Bleezy or anything like that for anyone else. He was Sergeant Blevins and I was at fucking parade rest. Like that's just how it was. But I mean, my story all branches back to like the day we left. Like family and all that, like that's between my wife and I, in my opinion.
Okay. That's fine.
That's something that when I get to the accident, I'll talk about how hard that hit her. But um, I remember the day we left, standing under the trees in front of the company or in the backside of the company where we all parked because it was hot as balls, and we were all in all of our gear. I'm carrying the 240 Bravo because I'm the FNG, which is BS because I'm the smallest guy in the platoon. But they threw that big pig on me. I don't know if that was to be funny or if they just knew I could handle it. I don't know. I don't care either way. I thought it was funny. It sucked, but I thought it was funny. And I knew that Flaherty in the second team, he had the same shit I had. So I was like, at least I'm not alone.
Sure.
So I'm carrying that crap around. I'm hanging out with Parker. White's there. My wife's there. And then we do the lineup, and the blue buses are there or whatever. I think they were blue, some gray steel blue or whatever. We all hop on the bus after the formation. Um, I just remember feeling like gut punched, I guess is the best way of putting it. I mean, not physically gut punched, but just like emotionally, like I just put my son down in his walker or his stroller, kissed him, kissed my wife, told him I loved him, got on a bus, and then drove away. It, I was excited in a way, scared, but just kind of emotionally like I'm gonna, walk away from my child, and I just signed, a will. I'm
Right.
23. I just signed a fucking will. Like, okay, so gravity, that's cool. You just have that hit me in the face real quick. I've only been in the military at this time for like, it was November of '09. What we deployed in July of 10, 11.
11.
11. So I haven't been in I've only been in the real army, not basic, not hold your hand army, like the real army. I've only been in at this point from time I get to the 22nd to the day we leave. I get to the 22nd in middle to late March. So I have April, May, June, and July. So I have 4 months of time where we're spending most of our time late nights because we're, like I said, we're out training and all that stuff. So there's your little. That's why I'm saying like it's so hard to figure out a timeline because my time window is I don't have the like some people I got 2 years at the 22nd. I had 4 years. Sergeant Fuller been there since they built the fucking buildings. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of timeline. So, that's kind of hard to put together. I remember going to so we're on the buses, the gut punch. Um, we drive to whatever that holding area was, and we sat there for a few hours. Um, th then I mean that was mostly just sit around, everyone's talking shit about how we're gonna kick ass and take names, just like 22-year-olds going off to war. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. To someone that wasn't there, it's a bunch of boys acting tough when they're really, really scared, if you want to put it that way. Or at least that's how I was. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I was this big tough man. I was terrified. Yeah, I mean, I knew that I wanted to do it. I knew that I wanted to do it to not even for myself. I think I wanted to do it just make my kid proud. I didn't want my son to come out and I had like nothing. I lived nowhere. I had a dead end nowhere job and I was nobody city. So I don't know, foot to the fire, time to be a man, make your family proud. I don't know. I guess that was my motivation at the time. I don't know how else to put it in a way that makes sense. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the environment I was in. I felt like that was kind of the environment that a lot of guys were in. Was just this, well, I'm here now and I've got a duty. So I guess we're gonna go do this because I don't have a choice in the matter. It's either this or jail. So here we go. So we sit in the holding area. I mean I babysat a 240. I remember getting on the big plane. Parker Parker pulls me aside before we get on the big plane. We're all on that big line on the freaking tarmac. I'm sure you remember the weapons. We're holding our bags. We get on the plane. We're the only people on the plane because they, commercial flight did us all out there, and we're the only people on it. So we get on the plane. Parker's like 2 seats ahead of me, and he pops back to me, and he's like, "Yo, it's a long flight, bro. You're gonna be able to sleep?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I'm so worked up." So he's like, "Here you go," and he like Benny darts me, give me a couple Benadryl, just to try to get me to sleep. So I didn't talk the whole flight. I slept the whole time because Parker hooked me up with something to get me to sleep. So that was nice. I don't remember any part of the flight, um, which was awesome because what was it, like 12 or 13 hours or something?
Long ass flight, yeah.
I think I slept for 9 hours of it. I think I woke up to some shitty movie that everyone was kind of talking and chattering about. I don't know. I will tell you, it felt really weird to fly on an airplane while you're holding an M4, and there's like 250 other M4s, a couple 240s, two Mark 14, just laying on the like. That was kind of crazy. So, but that was fun. I mean, the stewardesses were all really sweet and nice and gave us whatever we wanted. So that was nice. And then we got to, what was it? What'd you call it?
Kyrgyzstan.
One of the stands. That's what we kept saying over there. Where are you guys at?
So
It's one of the stands. I never knew how to say it. So we get to Kyrgyzstan. The main thing that sticks out to me in hitting Kyrgyzstan is I can't remember. I think it was we got off buses to go to our big tent. I think it was buses. I can't remember. It's been a long time. Um, but it was raining or had been raining. It was wet. I get off the bus. I'm carrying the 240, the barrel, my M4, my IoT. I'm carrying all my crap to live in this weird tent for what was it, like a week and a half, 2 weeks? I can't. Do you remember the time frame that we were in those tents?
I have it documented. But I don't remember. I feel like that was a bit long. I don't think it was a week and a half,
It
but
was
I
only like
don't know
5 or
offhand.
6 days. Maybe it just felt like a week. I don't know. But the main thing I remember is getting off that bus. It had been raining or was raining at the time, and I fell. And when I fell, I busted open the knee with
Hmm.
my brand new uniform, and I had to patch my knee once I got into the freaking tent. So I knew pretty early that, like, let's just say Lady Luck wasn't rolling in my way when we first got out there.
Okay.
I felt that way in the beginning. So that kind of sucked. We get in, we get our bunk set up. I remember it being like this big, it was either concrete, I think it was concrete pad that had like a tent built on top of it with a bunch of bunk beds in it, if I remember correctly. And we all got our little bunk, and I can't remember who I was bunked with. I'm sorry. I know that's terrible. If they're out there, if they ever read this or whatever, and they know, I'm sorry. It's no offense. It's a wild time. I don't remember who I was bunked with. I know that Watkins was nearby. Watkins, for some reason, on this deployment, he was my bunkmate when we actually got to Pasab. So for some reason, Watkins was always near me. I don't know if that was like by plan or just by chance, but I kind of got close with Watkins on the deployment a little bit, and I miss him. Um, but yeah, like we're in the big tent, and that's when we first find out about the recoilless rifle.
Mhm.
We get the debrief or the brief or whatever you want to call it, or whatever we used to call it. I don't know. About the recoilless rifle. It was I cannot remember the LT's name. Second platoon's LT when we first deployed.
Axton?
Axon, yes, loved Lieutenant Axon. Just could not remember his last name. And he pulls us aside with Sergeant Pelayo. We're all hunkered around a bunk, and they're telling us about this scary weapon known as the 82 millimeter, 83 millimeter. I can't remember the exact caliber, but recoilless rifle. I should know it. Almost killed me, right? That's terrible. Whoops. Um, they didn't get me, fuckers. Anyway, we we hear about that, and I remember feeling like that scared the shit out of me for some reason. And I know looking back now, you're like, ooh, but it did. Like, and I don't know if that's coincidence or, like that one of those weird, voodoo things where like you get the gut feeling and then all of a sudden that's what gets you. But inevitably, not to spoil the ending, but 82 millimeter. Um, so yeah, I find that about Kyrgyzstan. And then the only other thing that I remember about our time at Kyrgyzstan, I think that's how you said it, is that when we first got there, I remember we all found out that the Air Force got to drink, and First Sergeant Gordius was like, "Shut that shit down real quick." Everyone was like, "Oh man, that sucks." So I remember that part because that always made me laugh because everybody wanted to get drunk. It's like, dude, you're getting ready to go to war. You don't want to be drunk. Trust me. You're gonna be like sharp minded or something. I don't know. That's what they say in the movies.
Yeah.
Be like a ninja or something, focused. But yeah, so that I mean that's when I first figured or heard about the 82 millimeter recoilless. Scared the shit out of me because they were like, yeah, they just fucking set it up on the side of a road and bow, there it is, and we think it's an IED. Again, not to spoil the ending, but that's what ends up happening. So we do the time in Kyrgyzstan. If I remember correctly, it wasn't a whole lot of anything eventful. I think it was a lot of time of spending time learning about the country, doing briefs about hearts and minds, hearts and minds, hearts and minds, hearts and minds, but we're going to shoot bullets at them. So that went well. A lot of those briefs, I remember that a lot. Death by PowerPoint,
Mhm.
you know, that's all I remember from the time in Kyrgyzstan, other than, just the walks to Chow and, the fun hangout time that you have with the guys in between. I mean, that's where, you know, it's really where you build the bond. Like I said, that's when I really started to get to know, walk-ins. And, I got a lot closer with Adams at that time and, Lamond, because Lamond was from Missouri as well. Um, so, and that's kind of when I figured out kind of what my job was going to be, because I had done Crow's training, to do the robotic turrets on top of the vehicles, before we had deployed. Sorry, I just remembered that went through. But that was cool for me because like I was the new soldier at the unit, so being trained at like a specialty, I felt like they trusted me to do something that was important.
Mhm.
Like I kind of took that shit seriously, to the point that I was actually kind of let down when we got in country because they put Lozer in as the Buffalo gunner for the Crow system, and I got stuck in the back Vic on just a regular turret, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm being wasted right now because I'm trained on the Crows, and you know everybody always feels like they're gonna do better at something, whether they would or not. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
not in any way saying I'd be better at it than Lozer, but everyone always feels like, it's like when you're driving, you always want to be the one driving the car because you're the one in control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guy sitting in the back, like, oh, this is fun. Um, so yeah, that's what most of my beginning part of the deployment was. But anyway, back to Kyrgyzstan or whatever. That's where I kind of built a few bonds with a couple of the other guys in the unit. Um, messing around with Flaherty and his Boston accent, asking if he wants to play dots and shit. Um, just messing around like kids did,
Mhm.
getting random briefs, Blevins and Sergeant K messing around all the time. And then I remember we get from Kyrgyzstan, we get on, oh, was it Chinooks? I believe it was Chinooks that we got on to, wasn't it? Or was that from Kandahar to Pasab?
I think I have to go back and look. I think
I
it
cannot,
sounds right for Kyrgyzstan to Saab. Or
I
no,
cannot,
we took a
no, I think
flight.
it
Sorry,
was
flights from
flight. Yeah,
Kyrgyzstan to there,
that's
and
right.
then
It
we
was
would.
it was an actual military flight on the C-130s. That's what it was. or C, whatever they were.
Mhm. I think it was one, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so we get on the plane for that. And like the only thing that I remember about the whole flight into like Kandahar was hearing about the combat landing. Everyone talking about how the combat landing is just gonna freak you out and they gotta do it and it's gonna freak you out. It really wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It was kind of just like whatever. Um, but I was worried about that because like I don't know, I don't really do well on roller coasters and weird shit like that. I'm short. I'm low to the ground. That's where I kind of belong. There's a reason in the Air Force or the Navy. I'm down here. That's where I'm gonna stay. Um, that's why during basic they offered me airborne. I was like, nah, I'm good. Y'all, you can get someone else to go jump out of those big stupid planes that still keep flying. But yeah, that wasn't my thing. So where the combat landing kind of freaked me out, but that wasn't real bad. I know that once we hit in the airport, I got stuck on baggage duty, which blew because it's the first time you hit. The way I explain it to everyone that ever asked me how it felt to be in Afghanistan when you deployed is kind of like when you're baking cookies and you first open the oven and you get that blast of just fuck you to the face. That was like going to Afghanistan. Like when you walk out of your hooch, it was just right to the face, and that's what you did the whole time. It was terrible. So that was like the first experience of it. And they're like, "You're in full kit. You're gonna pull everybody's bag off the plane. You're gonna load it on this truck, and then you're gonna ride in that truck on the outside in the hot with your shit on." And you're gonna unload everybody else's bag, and then on top of that, once you get done, you're gonna grab all your shit plus your 240, plus your extra barrel, plus your bag, and you're gonna go back inside. So that part kind of sucked. But it was kind of nice to get used to the hot while I was out there because by the time I got back to the unit, like everyone else was like just now experiencing hot because they had been like inside doing stuff. So that was kind of nice to be past the hot at that point. But the bag detail was brutal is the main thing I remember. It was just the sheer heat and not being used to it. You know what I'm saying? Because like they tell you like it'll take like 2 weeks, you'll get used to it. It's hot. Especially when you're coming from like Washington State, when like the hottest days we had in Washington were like 84, legit 84, 85. It didn't get much hotter than that. And then you hit, Afghanistan. And I think when we hit the tarmac, it was like 135 and it was even hotter on top of the concrete. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was nuts. Especially when you're used to, a different world. It was kind of like getting off onto a whole nother planet almost.
Yeah.
It, I feel like that's what you would feel like if you got off on Mars. You just be like, what is this place? There ain't no grass. No grass? You ain't got no grass. I don't know. It was just weird. Kandahar was just weird. And then like we get, all the planes, we go into that really big building. I don't remember what it was for, but we go into that big building. Then we get cycled through. Everyone, gets to, wherever we stay on Kandahar for the short amount of time we're there. The main things, I mean, I'm sure the points for everyone on Kandahar are, the pools of crap that you could smell from, you know, America. Um, it was bad. It stunk, and we were not far from them when we got to the place we stayed on at Kandahar either. So that kind of sucked. I think in Kandahar 22nd we did weapons while we were there? Or was that when we got to Passab? When we first did like it was like a last qualification before we actually got in.
Yeah, I think
I
that
want
was Cav.
I was gonna say I think that was Kandahar. I remember doing that, and then I remember the first rocket attack we took was like the first time we landed at Kandahar. I think we were getting to go to our tents, and I think she was like Australian or something. The voice of the lady, rocket attack or whatever she kept saying. So I remember that we were like in this. It was like a long dirt road with like HESCO barriers and like concrete like pylons, like those like I don't know what they're called. They're like concrete bricks that are like triangles or whatever, but they're long. And I dove in behind Le Monde when we were going for like diving to the ground So I don't know if you know who Lamond is. Lamond's a pretty big. I am not. Lamond's like 6'3". I'm like 5'6". So like I tried to dive in. Well, Lamont hit that hole before I did. So I just kind of bounced off of Lamont and rolled back. And as I roll back, it goes like I watched it fly over us. And
Oh,
that's what
whoa.
it hit. Was it the Chow Hall or whatever it hit when we were in Kandahar? There was something that got hit by a rocket while we were in. I want to say it was a Chow Hall. Maybe it was Passab where that happened. I cannot remember which one it was. I wish I had someone that could lock that down. I want to say it was Kandahar though. I'm sure you can look it up.
I'm gonna look while we keep chatting.
Yeah. So that's that. I mean, that really is the main things I remember from Kandahar. We weren't there for long. It was kind of just a bump and go, like get a few things knocked out. Um, as far as being the low end of the totem pole as the soldier, I mean, I was the FNG, so I just kind of got told where to go at that point. Um, which I mean, if you weren't an NCO, that's pretty much what your existence was anyway. It's just kind of they herded you around. Um, so yeah, I just kind of went where the herd went and just kind of, small trainings, little things like that. Um, and then the next really big thing that I remember is getting into the Chinooks to fly to Passab because they put the Chinooks down and they left the jet engines on as we're like running in to put our stuff in. So like I don't I can't remember who took the picture, but there's a picture. Someone's got it of me and I'm like up against the wall and my whole face is like beet red because we've been running into the back of the Chinook and he's had his back engines on the whole time, just cooking our face, trying to throw these bags into the Chinook. And then riding in a Chinook was, that was kind of cool. I'd never done that before. It's a weird looking helicopter with the two blades going two different ways. That's awkward, obviously. Um, Flying to Pasab, though, I mean, it was, the same kind of chatter the whole way, you know, talking shit on who we're going to replace because they're National Guard. I think we all called them nasty girls at the time. No disrespect to any National Guardsmen out there. It's just, you know. But yeah, so it was just, trash talk the whole way in. We knew we were going to Pasab. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming this whole thing's just the 22nd,
uh,
right? Or are you doing everyone on the 14th?
it covers elements. It's focused on the 22nd, like
On the
95%
22nd. Okay.
is the 22nd.
Okay. I mean, we didn't really encounter much from the other platoons for the other companies from what I remember because they all went other places. So like we would hear like updates about them every now and then, but that's the only thing I remember about that. Um, but yeah, like we went to Pasab. We got to once we landed, we had to run from the landing strip where the choppers were and get to our hooches or whatever. Um, I remember getting into my hooch, my bottom bunk back into the hooch. Watkins was across the way from me. And then I can't remember who else was there. Like I said, there's for some reason in my memory, Watkins is just there. And like I guess Watkins and I, like we were kind of close to during the deployment, but I wouldn't say like we hung out all the time. But after my injury and everything, like I said, for some reason, this deployment, like Watkins and I were normally together. I remember walking to Chow a lot with Watkins because we just happened to be in the same type of details at the same time. It just happened to be one of those things where it just kind of lined up where I just kind of was with Watkins a lot. Um, so that was kind of the main thing that I remember from first getting to Passau was setting up the hooch, or the hutch, whatever. I can't remember what we fucking called it. Like I said, decade plus, two children, another baby that came along. It's hard to remember all this. Um, I remember being warned about the interpreters because they did nasty things in the shower. I remember that. Anyway, but yeah, we get to Passab. We're I know we're close to the military dogs. I knew we were on an area that had some SF guys on it, so that in like my head for some reason made me feel like, oh, okay, maybe we won't get fucked up as much because we got the badass dudes here. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better, I guess, at the time. Looking back, I'm sure that wouldn't have mattered, but Basab wasn't bad. I think we had a pretty good setup. The CBs kind of hooked us up with whatever we really needed. If we didn't have any furniture that was there, the unit that was there before us was kind of like, you know, grateful to have someone else to be taking this shit. So they're like, here you go, take whatever you want. You can have it all. It's your kingdom. So yeah, we just kind of slipped as far as second platoon, we just kind of slipped in as they slipped out, really. I mean, I remember running a few short missions with them. I think we ran a few missions with them before they like left out, but that's really all I remember. I can't remember really anything about the guys from the National Guard. I know that we first few nights that we were there, we talked with them, asked them questions about like, what are you running into? What's the common threat? What routes should we be looking out for? Where have you been taking contact? Do you have any pinch points? What your problem areas, like if you're smart, that's what you're doing anyway. Um, we were just trying to figure out like what are we getting ourselves into, I guess is the best way of doing it, is trying to figure out. Because I mean, you go into this blind. The NCOs that have done it, I mean, looking back, I thought, man, it's really kind of bullshit they don't explain this whole thing out. But now that I've kind of gone through it, it's really hard to compartmentalize what war is into a sentence.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, the closest thing I've ever come up to is just like one word, and it's just chaos. So I don't really know. So I get why they didn't like, hey, this is what combat's like. But looking at 23-year-old me, I was like, you know, why aren't they kind of giving us a little more into? So I'm like, at the same time, I'm trying to pick Blevins' brain on the short time that I can, chat at him because as lower enlisted, we were trying to get our shit together, but the NCOs were always, from what I remember, being extremely busy when we first got to Pasab, getting everything kind of set up, kind of what, like I said, I can't speak from an NCO position, but I'm assuming getting stuff ready on how we're going to run this ship, um, how it's going to happen, who's going where, fit the pieces in, you know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming that's what's going on at that point when we first get there. And then, like I said, I cannot tell you realistically how long we were at Pasab. Um, that's how big of a blur this whole thing is to me. It's it's so hard to explain to people that because like I told you earlier, like I have so much stuff in such a short amount of time that it's hard to separate um time frames at that point. I remember being at Pasab a short amount of time. I remember doing a few missions with the National Guard unit that was there. We never took contact as second platoon on any mission that I was in while we were with the National Guard unit. Like I said, I believe there was a time when first platoon took first contact. I think they were the first group that, and I don't even think it was like heavy contact. I think it was just a couple pop shots. I don't even think it was anything at all like what, and I can't say that we experienced because I wasn't there for some of the other stuff that the later guys had to go through, but we never got into anything big until after they left. And I don't know if that was, I'm assuming it was planned by you know the Taliban, whoever we were there to fight at the time. I'm assuming they knew we were switching, so gave us the illusion of safety or whatever. I don't know how it all went, but we never really took any major contact as a company that I remember during the time the National Guard unit was there. um I remember getting promoted the night before I got blown up. It
Congrats.
was thank you. E4 Mafia, baby. Anyway, Yeah, it was either the day before or the the day before the day before. It was something in that time frame. It was really short because I remember calling my wife and like telling her that, oh, I got E4. She was like, oh, congratulations. The talk you have while we were using the phone cards in the weird phone area. Um, it's been a long time since I remember that. But yeah, it was not really a big thing. Blevins, gave me the patch or whatever, punched it on my chest or whatever, all that crap. I was happy. Went to bed, felt great. Um, and then, like I said, I believe it was the next day was when the accident happened. I can't remember for the life of me how long we had taken over the battle area before they left.
I think
I
it was the next day.
was it the next day?
I'm
Oh shit, you motherfuckers!
checking. This was let's see.
Would have
It
been the
was
12th.
the first mission without the guys that relieved you, or that you relieved. Sorry. This is from Palaio had commented. This was our first event. It was a basic route clearance mission, and our first without the guys relieved with us.
Yeah,
Very first mission.
yeah. So look, when I go big, I go big.
Okay.
No, no that. Sorry, can I just take a second here to throw a shout out to Sergeant Grimes?
Sure.
Um, a story that just randomly popped into my head, and it's a rear D story. So a lot of the guys may not have heard it, but we're on rear D, and I can't remember who asked him. It was a higher ranked NCO. We're having a formation, and they asked Sergeant Majors what Afghanistan taught him. And Sergeant Majors, excuse me, Sergeant Grimes, without missing a beat, says, I learned in Afghanistan that I'm invincible. And that shit cracked me up because he's like, they tried to get me and couldn't. So that, I don't know, that just always stuck in my head and cracked me up. So that was just my side note there on Grimy. Um, Shout out to Grimes. He was a rear D sergeant for a while. But yeah, it was the day after getting promoted, the day that the National Guard unit left. So we're running routes. I can remember a few things about that day specifically before the accident. Um, like I I remember that Lozer at the beginning of the mission before anything went down, Lozer was supposed to be Crow Gunner. And I don't know if someone said to like give Rear a chance or Lozer had been out for too long. I can't remember. But Lozer didn't go in the Buffalo. I took over in the Buffalo that day. Um, Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
Yeah, Lozer took over for Lozer was normally the Buffalo Gunner. Like I said, I had been in the back gunner when we were doing the whole missions with the National Guard unit. So I guess Lozer took over um, Crow Gunner or had run Crow Gunner because maybe their guy was out. I can't remember what had happened, but for some reason, Lozer didn't run the Crow Gunner at that point. Um, so I got put into that slot, and it was Adams was driving. Blevins was TC. I was in the seat behind Adams running the Crow system. Cosman was to my right in the window liquor position. And I believe that's all we had. I believe it was a 4-man Buffalo. Those are the only people I remember being in the Buffalo. So if someone's cut out, sorry. Um, but I don't remember having another passenger because the only other people that I remember coming into the Buffalo after the hit was Parker and Sergeant Palaio. So that's who's in the Buffalo. And like I said, there's a couple things that I remember earlier before we got hit. I remember that because we were running down a road, one of the routes, and there was a tractor with the Afghan some Afghan guys on it, and they literally like it turned into a slap fest. Like they got into a fist fight, but like slapping each other, standing on the side of a fender of a tractor, while another guy and two other guys are sitting on the other fender, are just driving this tractor through this field, and these guys are just hauling off, bitch slapping this shit out of each other, riding around this trailer. And Sergeant Blevins is laughing his ass off. I'm laughing my ass off. I'm zooming in with the crow's like laser system to like watch it. It's cracking me up. We're all making jokes about that. You know, like I said, I don't think anybody. That's why I feel like my accident was kind of like I said earlier, it's like that gut punch, because we were all shooting the shit, joking. People were looking out the window, but like people weren't taking shit seriously, not fully, and not because they weren't wanting to. It's because they didn't know what they were up against. I
Right.
felt like it's not that we were undertrained or stupid or didn't know how to do our jobs. We just didn't realize what kind of animal we were actually up against at the time. Um, so yeah, like we were just kind of messing around. I don't remember what route we were on when it all happened, to tell you the truth. Um, the main thing that I remember is just general conversation. I can't tell you what we were talking about. There's no way I could. I just know we were all kind of shooting the crap because no one was coming over the radio, so we were just kind of talking amongst ourselves in the truck. Um, and we see in front of us, it was Sergeant K's vehicle was in front of us, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong on that, don't quote me, but I believe it was Sergeant K in front of us. Um, and they were in the DA, whatever that DA vehicle was, DA 31 or something like that.
RG-31?
Well, we had the RGs, and then there was a
DJ.
DA vehicle. It was a new one that they didn't have before.
I don't
It was
know.
something new, and then we had the Buffaloes, and then the Huskies, and I think that was it that we had in our we had RGs, and then that. But the vehicle in front of us, it looked like, from what we could tell, it looked like an ID under the back passenger tire of the Vic in front of us. So Blevins calls it out. You know, all stop, all stop. We're all trying to come to a stop. He's calling, ID, vehicle, blah, blah, calling the vehicle in front. We're all calling that out. So then we get hit. And the thing that I remember is black engine oil sludge, whatever, flying up onto the windshield. So we're flying blind at this point. You can't see out the side windows because it went, if I remember correctly, what I was told is it went through the block of the engine, the 82 millimeter recoilless rifle. So we got shot at 3 times. The first round went under the vehicle in front of us. The second round went through the engine block of our vehicle. And then the third round came through the side. So the second round hits, we can't see shit. It's just all black. So Blevins is calling out secondary. Um, Adams is literally flying blind at this point. He's just trying to stop a vehicle that he can't see out of, a very big vehicle that he can't see out of. And he has no idea what's around us at this point. The third round hits, and the only thing I remember is seeing all the black from the window sludge. I remember hearing Blevins screaming, secondary, and then black. No sound, just black. Then I come to, all I can smell is gunpowder, ringing, an immense pressure. I feel like my hand is the size of the vehicle I'm sitting in. Um, or like if you just took a vise and just cinched it the whole way down, just stick your whole hand in it, cinch it all the way down. And that's about what it was. I couldn't tell what was there. It just felt massive with a lot of pressure. Um, so at this point, I'm so dazed, I have no idea what is really up, down, inside out, upside down. I don't fucking know. I'm just noise, black smoke, can't see really because I mean the whole cab is full of black at this point. The dust is starting to settle. I can see some light peeking through the clouds of dust in the truck. Again, I the only thing that I know that is going on is yelling. I can't decipher what it is because it sounds like you stuck my head in a fishbowl. Um, so when I finally figure out what is going on, I can see the crow system screen in front of me with blood on it. My hand feels like it's huge and I can't move it. I can't squeeze it. If I know that there's something there, but I don't know what is there. So like training kicks in immediately. Well, at least it did for me. Um, my very first thought that I can really, really remember thinking is tourniquet, tourniquet, tourniquet. It's in your right arm. So I'm trying to reach across my body at this point in a 5-point harness with an IOTV with short little stubby T-Rex arms, trying to reach across my body to get to my shoulder pocket in an arm that is no longer functional. I can't get to it. Can't get to it. Can't undo the buckle. I can't see shit. I can't feel shit. I'm just kind of, I know I need what's over here and I can't get to it. So I'm panicking. I mean, I'm not like screaming, oh my God, hysterical, but like in my mind, I'm like, oh shit, this is not, this is not conducive to good stuff. So I yell to Cosman. So at this point, this is all hitting me in the head. I realize this is going on. I look over to Cosman and I'm like, Cosman, I'm fucked up. I need you. So Cosman gets the tourniquet out of my shoulder, which is what you're supposed to do, throws it onto my arm, gets it up to where he needs it, and then falls to the floor, rolling around, doesn't know where he's at, doesn't know what date is. The only thing I can see all around me is what looks like cooked spaghetti. And it was the Kevlar or whatever, but it looked like noodles, like everywhere. So I know I'm fucked up. I know I'm in a bad spot. I know I'm in a really bad spot now because I cannot twist this tourniquet because I can't get it. I couldn't get to the pocket. The tourniquet twist is on the back side of my arm. So at this point, if someone doesn't come back, I'm fucked. Um, because they can't really move in on us because we don't have the truck secured. We don't know what's going on. Blevins is I can hear Blevins yelling shit to me, I believe, and to Cosman to try to figure out what's going on. And the only thing I remember yelling back up to him is, I'm fucked up, Blevins. I'm fucked up, Sergeant Blevins. You got to get back here. Like I'm fucked up. I can't I can't put my tourniquet on. Cosman's laying on the floor. There ain't nobody else back here. Like, so Blevins hops over. Um, Finishes the tourniquet on my arm. He's like, "You good?" And I'm like, no, I still feel like warm blood running down my leg. Sorry. Um, I got warm blood running down my leg. So he grabs his tourniquet because keep in mind mine has now been used. So he throws his tourniquet onto my leg, um, tightens it down to where he thinks, and he's getting ready to set me to go. And he's like, "You're good." And I'm like, "No, keep twisting." He's like, "What?" I was like, "You got to keep twisting." He's like, "Why?" I was like, "I can still feel it running down my leg. You got to keep going." So he twisted a few more times. And at this point now, Cosman is still laying on the Blevins is essentially like, for lack of a better word, has kicked Cosman out of the way. Like trying to get to me, because from what he can tell, Cosman's not bleeding, I am. So he's trying to get me set up. And at this point, I believe is when the back door gets opened and that's when Parker and Sergeant Pelayo show up. At that point, Sergeant Pelayo is standing at the back. Parker hops in and starts trying to work on me as Blevins moves back up to check on, I think it was Adams. And Parker is checking on me while also trying to make sure that Cosman is not in, physical danger himself. Because, I mean, from what I was told, the way the round entered the vehicle was, like I said, the first round under the vehicle in front of us. Second round went through the engine block, and the third round went right above Cosman's lap. And then the round hit my hand in the joystick on the way out the other side. Yeah, the round like goes through above Cosman's lap, out the other side. Um, so that's the flight path of the round. So it didn't ever, from what I understand, ever hit Cosman, but I'm sure something entering a vehicle like that would jack you up. So luckily, Cosman was fine. From what I understand, physically, he didn't have any um, dangerous wounds or anything like that. I think Adam had a wound on the back of his arm, or Blevins did, if I remember correctly. Because it was Blevins, because Blevins had a big contentious feeling about getting that Purple Heart. I remember having a conversation with him about it. Um, because he felt like that, from what he told me, he felt like he didn't deserve that Purple Heart. Um, because he didn't go through what I had went through. And I told him that was bullshit. But Bleezy. Stubborn Bleezy. But yeah, like I said, I was the main, luckily, thank God, I was the main injury. Physically, obviously. Um After that, it was kind of a whirlwind of getting to the line to on the way. I remember hopping in the back of a car with or car back of the RG or whatever it was with fucking what was his name? Dang it, I'm not gonna remember his name, and it's gonna hurt because I was actually kind of close with him. So long, guys I've never spoken to in 12 years. Damn it. Oh, I can see his face. If I saw him right now, I could run up to him and talk to him, but I can't. I can't remember his name. But yeah, with him, Parker put me in the back of the vehicle, and then Sergeant. Oh, I should know this because my wife stayed with her, with his wife. He cheated on the PT test.
Oh,
Who was?
yeah, I hate to drop somebody's name like that.
I know I do too, but I need his name.
Uh,
Full. It wasn't Fuller. It
no,
was.
um, now it's gonna drive me nuts. I know who you're talking about. He was in my platoon.
Nice guy. I've got nothing against the guy. I've got nothing to say poorly about the man in any way. I just know that that would be something that people would recognize and be able to tell me his name. I don't mean anything
I
disrespectful by
will.
it.
I can get that really quick. I'll give you his name after
Yes,
this.
please. Thank you. But yeah, shout out to him. He took care of my wife while her foot was broken while I was deployed. So like I said, I have no ill will towards the man in any way, shape, or form. Um, but yeah, threw me in the back with that. They get me to I believe it's called the roll two. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed in, I believe it was Bagram with Cosman, and I believe White was there. Now, keep in mind, I'm on some pretty heavy sedation at this point. Um, nobody's really explained to me what has gone on, and I'm so doped up that I couldn't tell you what's going on. I just know that I've been hurt and I'm laying in a hospital bed, and some of the people that I like are here, and some of the people I don't fucking know are here. So Cosman's there. He had been treated there too, and I don't remember if anyone else got sent. I remember waking up having some 2 or 3 star general stuff some metal on my chest that I don't give a shit about at this point. I have some other 2 star general for their stupid bullshit photo op, kiss my ass bullshit to stuff a metal in my face when I'm like 30 hours after getting blown up. Sorry, it seems a little disrespectful. Give somebody some time. I don't even know what's going on with me yet, and you're stuffing metals in my face. Like, come on, I get it. Like, but come on. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that all happens. I get flown back because I can't stay. I wanted to stay. I argued with a 3 star general to stay. He wouldn't let me. This is all while I'm on pain pills, so I'm sure I made a whole lot of fucking sense. Um, but I think I ended up getting a letter later from him, essentially telling me that I was like some kind of inspiration or something because whenever he had talked to me, I had fought so hard to try to stay. It ain't got nothing to do with inspiration. I just didn't want to leave the guys that I was there with. They were like, that's like my boys. Like I would literally do anything for the guys I served with. Um, so that is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I got told I couldn't stay, which pissed me off. Felt kind of alienated because I couldn't stay because I had learned all this shit and then was there ready to do it, was motivated, um, and just chips and cards fell the way they did. Um, but yeah, that was kind of the main thing after getting hurt. Before I really knew what had happened to me, that was my main concern was trying to delusionally get back and fight in a war that I had just been unknowingly taken out of. So I fly back, um, which flights back weren't too bad. There were a couple that were rough. Flying back on a fueler plane is kind of rough because they only like cool off while they're flying. So once you hit the tarmac, you're just kind of in a big metal oven. And when you're on painkillers, it's not a whole lot of fun. But I mean the flight back got to Germany. Didn't really get to see anything because I spent most of my time, like I said, in the bed. I spent most of my time hopped up on whatever they had me on. I think it was Dilaudid at the time, so I was kind of in and out for the whole way back to the States. I really kind of figured out what was going on with me once I got told that I was going to be back at Madigan, which looking back, look at the time I was excited to go to Madigan. Looking back, I wish I would have gone to like Brooks because Madigan was not equipped to take care of me in the way that I needed to be taken care of. They had a fantastic hand surgeon. Dr. Nochi is the guy that did my hand surgery. And I mean, to this day, I work a full-time job, work with my hands all the time. So I can't complain about the surgery. It was just the getting out process, the retirement side of it. That part of it was rough. So I got back pretty soon after leaving. So a lot of my time, while everyone else was overseas, my time was spent like rehabbing a lot of it. Um, I had 5 cleaning surgeries, and then I think 2 surgeries where they had to actually do some repair. I had a broken ulna in radius in my forearm. Um, I lost my index finger on my right hand and the top part of my thumb um, from the round going through the joystick of the crow system. So I got told by another surgeon I was really lucky because I had a piece of shrapnel that missed something in my neck by like a 1/4 inch that I guess would have killed me. So, I mean, I've got a beard now. I grew the beard because I have like scarring down on my neck. So, um, just kind of covers that side of it. Still got like the giant fasciotomy and everything like that. Like most of what, like, it was like debridement, Then they did the main surgery to fix everything, and then it was like they stuck in a wound vac, which is like a big sponge through like the wound that sucks out all the fluids that your body is going to be putting towards it, just so that they don't have to amputate your arm. Because if those fluids build up and they don't get released, then it cuts off oxygen, and then they have to cut your arm off. So they have to have some way to get those fluids out. So I spent a lot of time with that, and then I went into occupational therapy um, with a woman named Beth, and I believe her name. This makes me feel like a terrible person that I can't remember the guy in the truck, but I can remember the therapist's name. And her last name is Miklos Essenberg. It's not an easy last name. Miklos Essenberg. Anyway, she was my occupational therapist, and that woman was amazing. Um, I would not be able to use my hand in Fordham. Yes, Fordham. Sergeant Fordham. Shout out to Sergeant Fordham, man. I love you, brother. Thanks for taking care of my wife. Um, but yeah. Anyway, Beth really helped me get to the point where I can use my hand again. She was a Kansas Jayhawk fan, which I was at the time. KU and Mizzou were in the same conference, and they've been a rivalry forever. So it's kind of funny that I've been a Mizzou fan because I grew up in Missouri, and she's a KU fan, and they're supposed to hate each other, and she's supposed to be the one that's supposed to help me fix my hand. So like I, razz her all the time being a KU fan. She razzes me for being an MU fan. And it was kind of like, in a weird way, it was kind of like the same brotherhood you have when you mess with like a guy in the Navy or the Air Force. You know what I'm saying? It was just kind of like she was kind of like my friend that helped kind of restructure everything that kind of crumbled in a very short amount of time. Um, but yeah, that hand got to working. Everything was good on the hand. Got rehabbed with everything that was 9 months. And then retired out of the military out of that. Just kind of cut it short after that. I wanted to stay in, but I mean, it just wasn't in the cards. Um, but like most of, sorry, not to backtrack so badly, but most of the time that we spent on Rear D was mostly cleaning stuff like that. Um, the guys, all the guys came back was when kind of everything got kind of right back to normal a little bit, but it was right about the time that I started kind of getting out, unfortunately. Um, so it was nice to get to see everybody. And by the time everybody got out, I think I left out of the army, medically retired out, just a few months after everyone had gotten back. Because I ended up staying with Sergeant Blevins and Kelly for a while. And then I stayed with Sergeant Powers and his wife for a little while, and then moved back here, um, back to Missouri. Struggled a lot with a lot of mental stuff after getting out. Nightmares. Not not as bad now. Um, but for the first 2 or 3 years, probably, um, sometimes I would wake up and I don't even really know how to explain it. I would wake up and realize that I'm not in the truck, but I would feel like I was in the truck, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Um, so that was rough to kind of cope with at first. Um, a lot of everything that kind of went down with the accident. After I had gotten hurt, after everything had rehabbed, the accident for me really kind of more turned into worrying about Bleezy.
Sorry, what accident are we talking about?
One in Afghanistan, like when I was hit.
Oh, okay, you're calling that an I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah, the accident, the day I almost, I mean, I don't know what else to call it. The
Okay.
day I was hit.
We're good.
I mean, that like after I had gotten out and rehabbed and everything, and after everyone had come back, I hung out with Blevins a few times. And he had a lot of demons, maybe, to be the best way to put it, on the accident or the incident, the day I got hit. A lot of the stuff that Blevins put a lot of weight on his shoulders and with my accident. And like I told you earlier, I feel like my accident a lot of times is kind of like the catalyst of what everybody went through. Like it really kicked off everything. Um, I think that hit Blevins really hard, that accident in particular. Um, and I think it was because him and I were close.
Mhm.
And I think it was because like I had to yell out. Um, I didn't have a choice. I couldn't get out of my seatbelt. For like I said, no offense to Cosman, but Cosman was on the ground and like he should have been. He couldn't focus on anything. He had just had his bell rung by a gigantic round flying over his lap. No judgment at all. I mean, so it's hard for me. I think the hardest thing for me is to know that there are people that have worse of a time with my accident than I do. I think is what bugs me the most. Because like my shit bugs me. Like don't get me wrong, like I'm not like Susie Homemaker and everything's fucking perfect. Like I got my shit, everyone does, but like it hit Blevins differently than it hit me. Um I think it even hit Parker a little differently than it hit me. I think it hit the unit differently than it hit me. If I'm being honest. I mean, it was just maybe that's why I'm so detached from it. Is it because it did happen to me? So I'm just so caught up in the fact that this is my timeline of events that I can't see any other side of it than, just a gut punch for the unit.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that to this day, that's probably what hits the most is knowing that something that I went through could hurt someone else like that. Like Osmond still has nightmares about hearing me scream. I mean, Blevins, the last time I spoke to him, mentioned it. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a shitty burden to bear, I guess, because it's just something that happened to me hurting people that I care about. It's kind of shitty, and the fact knowing that that could have been and probably was a little bit of a contributing factor in one of my best friends not being here anymore.
Mhm.
Um, it's tough, but I mean, is what it is, I guess. I miss him. Sometimes I weirdly talk to him and just tell him that I miss him and that everything's good. Um, Blevins gives me a reason to
There you go.
keep fighting my own demons, I guess.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I do, and I'm glad you processed it like that.
But um, Blevins was hard from the deployment. The main things that hurt me the most are Blevins. I didn't know povolitis, but povolitis hurts. The only thing that I literally remember about povolitis is he was literally like the nicest guy I'd ever met in my life. Um, Super friendly, talk to you about anything, just a good old boy. Never had a crossword to say about anybody. Every interaction I ever had, like I said, every interaction I had with Povolitis was nothing but fantastic because he was only there for a short amount of time. That I got the opportunity to meet him. You know, I mean, he was only there for a very short amount of time before I got hit. So it was actually kind of nice to meet him. So that was really hard, especially because when they did his remembrance back at Fort Lewis McCord, I cannot remember who the captain was, but wanted me to speak with the family, and I'm like, oh, like pretty much what I am now. Like, what the fuck do you say?
Right.
Hey, this is one of our Purple Heart recipients, Stephen, and he'd like to talk to you about it. Like, what? What are you doing? So that was tough. That was a awkward day, but Povolitis was rough, very rough. And then obviously, finding out about Parker was pretty hard for me as well because I don't know if people know this. Parker legit lived with me for like 4 months, like 3 or 4 months. Like we just kind of accepted him into our house because he was eating cheeseburgers from Burger King that were like a week old. And my wife was like, no, bring that boy to this house and we'll feed him. We will feed him and he can just sleep here. So Parker lived with me. Um, so that's why Parker and I were really close. I mean, he literally spent most of his spare time at my house. So yeah, finding out about Parker was rough, obviously. And then, news would trickle in, obviously on Rear D from, you know, we heard about Grimes before, but it was all whispers. We didn't know if it was, I don't know. It just, the way it kind of happened was we just kind of found out whenever they would finally put together a formation, but there was always rumors. And so, like, that was crazy. The I don't know. I guess my main thing is I guess I don't see from a big picture standpoint um how much I guess my incident affected people. I guess I don't know the standing I might have had with the unit or with other platoons because I didn't talk to them. I didn't really know anybody because like I said, I had been there for so short amount of time. I feel like I didn't really get to know anybody. Just the short little relationships that I got to get because like I said, Parker, lived with me. Sergeant Blevins was he was my team leader. I spent tons of time with Sergeant Blevins. I was older than some of the other guys, so him and I got close. Like there were a few people that I got close to, and I just hope that the incident and everything that went down and how it went down is not affecting anyone else in a way like it was Blevins, I guess, is kind of where I'm at. And I hope that everybody's getting to talk to the people they need to, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, since the military, it's been pretty slow going. I mean, I've had my struggles. I've um, had my bad struggles. I've had to fight off alcohol. That was a rough one. Um, Kind of fell into that train for a little bit, and that turned into some altercations that could have gone a different direction. We'll just put it that way. Um, so that scared me enough to get the fuck away from alcohol, which was probably the best decision I think I've made since after Afghanistan. Was getting off of the sauce. I think that a lot of guys kind of stay on it a little too long. So um that's kind of been like the main thing was just I was talking to Blevins as much as I could to try to um I guess piece together whatever I could try to help him piece together with what he was dealing with at the time. I had been talking to a few guys, but that's kind of fallen off. As life does, and 12 years of time will do.
Sure.
Uh, but yeah, life has been really good for me. I got awarded a house for being a Purple Heart recipient. Um, I work at a sign shop, laying vinyl and wrapping cars. Um, Kind of slow little shop that's nothing ever exciting ever happens at. So, I just tried to I guess my way of coping with it, honestly, was just kind of close that book and just put it on a shelf and walk the fuck away.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, like I said, Blevins and Parker are really the guys that I kind of kept in contact with. And as I've gotten older, I want to like try to, obviously open that up and try to talk to people more often. But I think that was my way of just shutting it all down was just put it up, you know. Um, when people ask me about it now, I mean, I'm not afraid to tell them. I mean, I'll tell them what happened, not obviously in like great detail, but I'll tell them, I was hit by this in Afghanistan. Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, the same old thing that I'm sure everybody deals with, but I don't know. I like life now way better than I did. We'll put it that way. I feel like I'm a better person now than I was then. I feel like going through all that has taught me to appreciate more, you know, because you have no idea when, like I said earlier, like when I got hit, lights were off, it was just black. So you never know when that is the last time.
Hmm.
Like it goes black and that's just it. So, spend the time with the people you got, try to help those that are, banged up and go on with life. Uh, I just try to put all of my energy into my kids as much as I can and um, try to stick Afghanistan as far away as I can. I guess is the best way of how I've closed that whole incident, which I guess is why my interview is like 14 hours long, is because I haven't talked about it because like I said, I shut the book. I
Hmm.
was over. I crossed that bridge. I met the people I needed to meet. I did the things that I needed to do, and it's a it's a chapter of the book that's important, but I don't ever want to read it, if that makes sense.
Sure. And especially having you said that, I appreciate your time all the more when this is something you'd shelved and really moved on. And here I am probing into it.
Oh no, you're
But
good.
it's important. I do want to talk to you after this. So, but I want to ask for the interview. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share? You feel like you've covered your story?
Uh, Final thoughts. If I had to summarize everything, I'd say I met the best people in the worst time of my life. Legitimately.
Yeah.
Um, Relationships that like I said to this day that I haven't talked to these guys in forever. But I can tell you if they knocked on my door, there wouldn't be anything they needed.
Mm.
I mean, and I'm sure the feeling would be mutual among all of us. So um that's what I try to tell most people is like thanks for your service or whatever, thanks for everything you've done. And it's like, you don't really understand what you're really saying thank you for, I guess. But
Yes.
I know, I know the people you should really be thanking is what I really want to say. Um, because there's a lot of people that were kind of unsung heroes in the whole situation. And there's a lot of people that, you know, don't get their day in the sun for everything they did. So, I mean, my main thing would be, like I said, I met the greatest people in the worst time of my life, and I would just want to thank all of them for being part of such a life changing and guiding situation in my life. I cherish all of the guys that I spent time with, all the guys I fought with, all the guys I trained with, all the guys I put on the uniform with that I really look back on those days with happiness and sadness and fear at the same time. It's such a weird time to look back on. It really is. Um, so I guess my main closing thoughts would be that I love all you guys. And I miss a few of you a lot,
Sure.
like Blevins and all the other guys. So I guess that'd be my last closing thing is I love you guys. We're all good. You know what I mean?